Now that we've done some really basic tone work, what I want to do next is clean up the small details. So let's create a new layer. When we create this new layer, let's name it along the way. So press Shift Command N on a Mac, Shift Control N on Windows. We'll call this Cleanup 1. From here, we'll grab one of our cleanup tools like the Spot Healing Brush or the Healing Brush. And what I'm going to do is actually clean up some of these elements in the background. I should also point out with all of these tools, we almost always want Sample All Layers turned on. That way we can do this retouching to a separate layer. Now because the background's out of focus, this isn't essential to do these little retouch work here, but nonetheless, I just want to reduce and simplify as much as possible because we know that the eye goes to areas of brightness and also areas of contrast. We don't want anything competing really with this area of the photograph. All right, well, just retouching these little background elements, I think that's fine. Next, let's zoom in on the face. We want to get really nice and close here. First thing I'm going to work on is this little birthmark. I'll go ahead and remove that. I select the healing brush, sample all layers, Option or Alt click, and we'll go ahead and just remove that out there. Now I mentioned before that we're going to need to work on the overall tone. We'll be doing that in just a minute, but for starters I'm going to work on these little teeny details. And I'll just make my way through the image with a nice small brush, looking to try to reduce and simplify here as much as possible. So let's go ahead and just work on little teeny blemishes, anything that we think is going to distract from the overall intent of the image. Now one thing I should point out that because this is a guy and because this is a person who is an athlete, we don't want to soften this up too much. You want to leave some blemishes here. You want to make the person seem real because a lot of times athletes have that edge to them and we don't want to soften that. So again, as I reduce and simplify, I'm looking to create a stylized perspective of this person, but I don't want to create something that's surreal. So we'll just look at how we can reduce and simplify here as much as possible without going overboard. Whenever you're doing this detail work, it's always a good idea to put on some good music. And also, you may be noticing that as I do this, I'm pressing the Option key quite often to sample from different areas. And I want to do that so that I don't ever sample from the same area more than just a couple of times. Because in a real workflow, I need to be incredibly careful that I'm not repeating any patterns or textures that's going to become noticeable later. So again, just doing a lot of little teeny work, but trying to have my sample area come from different areas so that we can hide this as much as possible. The trick with this, of course, is that right now we're zoomed way in. What we need to do pretty soon is zoom out, because sometimes you can zoom so far in that you're really missing the overall point, or that you focus too much on little details that you miss some of the bigger details. We also want to be asking ourselves as we make these adjustments, are they improving the image? Not are we doing them just because Photoshop can, but rather, does this improve our vision for the photograph? Is this leading us somewhere? Go ahead and just remove some of these up here. And I'm going to zoom out. I want to see how we're doing so far. I think we're doing pretty good. If we look at our before, here's before, and then there's after. It's not surreal, it's not unrealistic, but it's just reducing and simplifying this a little bit. It's creating a look that has a little bit more soft light. Now I like that there are still some skin variations here, and with this image I'm not interested in softening the skin out so that it looks like a beauty or fashion shot or something like that. I want to have a bit of grit. Yet it is nice how we reduced and simplified. I think it's a little bit more of a flattering look. I think that Chris would actually like this. Knowing Chris, he's into looks that are authentic, that are real, that capture a bit of who he is. So let's zoom out just a touch more. Here we have our before and after. Overall, here's our before and after. Stage 2 is now complete. I'll catch you in the next movie.